Hi people, and hello my Chili Carnage crew, it's Chili here, the man who produces Design for My Eyes, doing a 5-minute review on Hinder's newest album, Back to Life. Now I didn't really have a strong connection to the band Hinder, and I could only recall their breakthrough song, Lips of an Angel, which was of course a smash hit 20 years ago for the band, and I figured in preparation for this new album, I would go back and listen to some of their older stuff. But I couldn't recall any of it. Better Than Me was the other single that was released, and it sounds extremely similar to their first one. And I guess back in the day, I figured they were a one-trick pony, and they were done. Maybe in the States they had more success than here in Australia, and in all honesty, I can't be bothered researching this statement. But when I played their new song, Don't Believe It, well, I couldn't believe it, because hey, they have a new singer, and it rocks. Yes, you can call me Perth when it comes to the news of Hinder, because I'm 4 hours behind the rest of my country in finding out that Hinder replaced their singer over a decade ago. And what a breath of fresh air Marshall Dutton is for his role. Admittedly, it is a very jarring experience when compared to their original singer, Austin John Winkler. Wait, that's his actual name? Winkler? Fuck me. Anyway, what Austin lacked in range, he made up for with his signature gravelly and rough sounding delivery, which was synonymous to a rock and roll kind of sound, and in all honesty, while he was limited to writing the same styles of song with a very small spectrum he could sing within, he did make it his own. Meanwhile, the new singer, of course, has a very broad spectrum, and it is an intriguing shift, and this can be felt, of course, as the band shift gears on their 7th album and first in 7 years, to produce a record that is actually quite decent. Now, when I was making my list of albums I had missed from the past month and saw Hinder, I just figured that this would be a basic butt rock kind of sounding record, the kind that you can play once and pretty much never listen to again, as you would shove it aside along with the contents of my morning coffee dump run. Anyway, this album presents a vibrant band that is almost a stark comparison to their original makeup, and one that I could say is deserved of Hinder making it on lists where the band changed one of their members to sound better. The first half of this album certainly contains some upbeat sounding pieces that almost seem to border into pop punk territory, such as with Rear View, which straight up Pearl Jam covered and is much better than this, but this ain't a bad take on the subject either. Everything is cold. Everything is a Cult was another tune that caught me off guard with its almost Rob Zombie-like intro, but while it seems to have an oversimplified message, it does contain some hard-hitting riffs that help the song drive its repetitive lyrics home. And hey, you don't always have to make it complicated to make a point. As previously mentioned, Don't Believe It is a highlight from this album, with the energy and lyrics that made me forget just how old this band actually is. This song makes me feel like I've dived 15 years back into the past, and for good reasons. Maybe it's the rose-tinted glasses looking at this tune, but I really dig it. Now, not all of it is sunshine and puppy dogs when it comes to this record, and indeed it does contain, of course, some shitty tracks which can certainly be found on here. One of the songs that comes to the forefront of my mind would be Bad Decisions, a song so generic with its lyrics of spending my last 2 cents on a lover. First up, if you're spending 2 cents on a woman of the night, you certainly need to be tested for everything. But hey, whatever. Look, I know it's a figure of speech, but come on now, this song doesn't claw its way out of the pit, as it blends generic butt rock with Lil Nas X sound bites and trap hooks in parts. This is certainly one of the low points on the album, but it's not the only one, unfortunately. The last few songs as well drag on, starting from Good Enough For You, which is shock and horror, tackles a much covered subject, but hey, whatever. And come to think about it, I can't even remember the last 2 songs for the life of me, and I'm kind of grateful, to be honest. I just remember them being pretty crappy. Now, while this album is a massive departure from the band's previous styles, as mentioned, I'm certainly not going to pretend that I am an expert and state that I know the other 5 albums in depth. I don't. But hey, Hinder are not a band that are extremely complicated or nuanced. They are simplistic musicians who, of course, wear their style on their sleeves. But this is really surmised when you take a quick peek at Austin's solo work post-Hinder, which is rather minimal, as he has only released 1 EP in the past 10 years and a few singles. And speaking of his singles, the last one was back in 2023, which was a follow-up to Hinder's big hit, and aptly called Lips of an Angel Part 2. which is a re-recorded version of the OG with Shalm. I don't know how to pronounce the name. I'd say give it a rest, but considering that Austin has suffered liver and kidney failure for the last couple of years, then I'm going to say that he deserves a bit of a get out of jail free card for, of course, these past transgressions, as he does need the money for his medical need. But this brings me to my biggest gripe with the new Hinder album, and it has to do with the closing track, Trying to Get Some, which feels like the band are trying to recapture that old power ballad style that broke them into the charts to begin with. All of you guys, give it a rest. That song was a minor hit 20 years ago and really doesn't deserve to be where you rest your laurel. Instead, you should be focusing more on your future endeavours, because as previously stated, my favourite parts of this album were the sections that Hinder sounded like a new band, and I can look past these simplified lyrics when you got some big hooks on here after all. Focus on the new styles that you are doing, because they're strong, and I enjoy those parts. Overall, I'm going to give this album a score of 5 million chilies on the spicy scale, with my favourite tracks being Rearview, Don't Believe It, and Break the Cycle. Now, I'm in no rush to revisit this album, but I don't regret listening to it either. It was a fun record to listen to, and while I certainly doubt old school Hinder fans would enjoy the latest efforts by the band, I think it certainly can find a new market. As always, listen to this album for yourself and tell me your favourite tracks below, and don't forget to stay spicy out there. If you've enjoyed this content, make sure to smash that like button, subscribe to us, and stay notified for future music related content, because it keeps our manager happy at the end of the day. We are also on Discord, Instagram, Facebook, and all those other social platforms if you want to check us out. As always, people, you have a great day and stay spicy.